Mig Welding for Beginners Part 4. In this video, like the other ones about MIG welding, I'm featuring the Clark 240 amp turbo MIG welder. I'm getting far better results almost immediately with this one than I ever did with the small one I had a few years ago. Once again, I'm in my workshop with my good friend Bob Brocklehurst, who owns Pugna's Light Railway in Wakefield. And I'd love to say this is an example of Bob's work, but it isn't. This is an example of my work. And once again, it's a great example of the pigeon droppings school of welding. You may be thinking, why is this fool making a tutorial about welding when he can't do it himself? The plan is, I'm a beginner, and as I get better, you will see why I'm getting better. This weld is quite good really, I suppose, and this is only like this because I did it properly. And why did I do it properly? Because Bob was stood next to me with a cattle prod. The truth is, I held the torch quite close to the work. The wire feed once again is correct at number 7, but the graduations on welders are not all the same, so you will have to experiment. Now it's time to fasten a piece of box section to a flat piece of bar. The earth clamp's in place on a clean piece of metal, and this is essential. If the earth clamp is on a really rusty, dirty piece of metal, you will get problems. I bought some of these, and I recommend that if you're learning to weld, you buy some too. They are magnetic holders. Perfect for holding pieces of metal where you want them to be while you initially spot weld the piece at each corner, or at least 2 corners of this. Welding obviously is a very hot process and the metal will start to bend. So rather than starting at point A and going all the way round, you need to weld on alternate sides. Otherwise the heat will locally distort the metal and it won't be straight. When initially spot welding the parts together, it's a really good idea to spot weld in the right place. A second time and it's still not good. I'll start again. Eventually I got 2 spot welds sort of okay, so then I started to weld all the way around. By changing the position of the metal in the vise, I welded across each of the sides alternately. Not a good job, I do admit, but I will get better soon. My main problem is steering. I don't seem to be able to go in a straight line. And then the penny dropped. When I look through my Clark electric head shield, I'm looking at the arc because I find it fascinating. Once I looked in front of the arc to the left, suddenly it went in a straight line. That's one milestone out of the way when I'm welding from right to left, but what about when I weld away from me towards myself? That was the first spot weld and it's in the right place. I was a bit too slow on this one, and also the weld wandered off a little bit, this time to the right. Making things using welding can be a problem because if you're not very good at it and the welds are unsightly, you're going to spend a lot of time with an angle grinder cleaning up the untidy welds. For me, a lot more practice is needed. Not bad, messy, but tolerable. I need to get a lot better at it than this. I'll try again. This weld is still a bit bulbous, but it's in a straight line. Time for a bit of random welding just for practice. One of my Patreon supporters wrote in and gave me a tip, and at first I thought it was a very sarcastic joke, but it's not. The viewer said that he could make much neater welds if he sang the song "If I Only Had a Brain" from The Wizard of Oz in his head. So I tried that and it works. Look at this weld, it is a lot better. I moved the torch in very small circles in time with the music in my head. So why "If I Only Had a Brain"? Why don't you sing "I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas"? It's down to the rhythm. "If I Only Had a Brain" is a dotted feel. It goes da 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 da, whereas White Christmas goes da 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 da, which is no good at all. You need the dotted feel. Da 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 da. Honestly, I'm not being sarcastic and I'm not having a laugh. This really does work for me. Now I'm going to weld the piece of box section to a straight piece of plate steel. Once again, it's not quite the welding you see on motorcycle frames, but it's definitely getting slightly better with that nice effect on it. Last week, my welding attempts all looked like this. A quick health and safety reminder, when you're welding you should wear gloves, and not just because of the heat generated by the welding process, it's the actual arc that gives you a very bad sunburn. Thanks to my good friend Bob Brocklehurst, I'm really making progress from this to this in just 1 week. In fact, looking at this, I'm not that far off being able to make some security bars for my workshop windows. Not just yet though, I do need quite a lot more practice, which I'll be doing off camera during the next week. Once again, I'm really grateful to my friend Bob Brocklehurst for the tuition. It's made a big difference. And that's it for this episode. I'd just like to say stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.